Today we want to try and beat every single Pokemon champion, and there is a lot of them as N. What if the Team Plasma leader and a champion himself decided to try and conquer every other region? With a legendary by his side, could he do it? If he does manage to take down all the champions, 3 powerful trainers await him he must face to claim victory. If a Pokemon faints, it's gone from the whole run and I can't use any items in battle. Full rules are in the description below. Let's get started. First up is Pokemon Fire Red, and we have the champion for this game, Blue. N didn't have any Gen 1 Pokemon as he was introduced in Generation 5. However, he does own Weather Team, so we'll be taking Pokemon from them until we reach Generation 5. Blue's lead is Pidgeot, and we lead off with N's Cloyster. Straight away we outspeed Bejesus and deliver a freezing Ice Beam to take out his first Pokemon in just one attack. Blue decides to send out his Rhydon next. He's obviously already nervous at our power as this isn't a good matchup for him. One Surf from our Cloyster and Rhydon falls too. Third, he sends out a better choice, Executor. We have an easy swap to Ninetales on the Giga Drain that does practically nothing to us. The next turn, Ninetales fires off a fiery flamethrower and that's enough to take down the 3-headed Eggplant. Fourth is Blastoise, his ace and starter. I go into Shiftry, who tanks a Hydro Pump but not as well as I thought. I then go for Thief, which is a unique move and allows me to steal his Citrus Berry as Blastoise sets up a Rain Dance, boosting his water type attacks. We then deliver a devastating Giga Drain, but we don't do enough for the knockout and we heal to full as Blastoise's Hydro Pump does a massive amount to us. This activates our Citrus Berry that we stole earlier, healing us up a little bit too. Blue full restores his ace, but we just Giga Drain him to below half again. Blue now pulls a double on us and swaps into his Arcanine as we do relatively little with another Giga Drain. I have to swap, so into Omastar I go as we tank a flamethrower extremely well. We then throw rocks at Arcanine, critically hitting, but we don't get a boost as we tank a weak bite in return. Blue full restores again, but we just keep throwing rocks at him. Eventually we take down Arcanine by throwing rocks at his face, and then Blue sends in Alakazam. I have a very easy swap to Shiftry as he future sights us. The next turn we outspeed and a Shadow Ball makes super quick work of the Psychic type. This just leaves Blastoise left. We already know the damage we do with Giga Drain, so we take him out quite easily, beating our first champion with plenty more to go. It's on to Johto now. Lance is the champion of Johto and the next we face. With us having access to water types and ice coverage, I do believe Lance doesn't stand a chance, but let's see. Lance leads off with Gyarados and we lead off with Cloyster. It's a fantastic start for us as our Ice Beam critical hits and that just obliterates Gyarados. Lance sends out Aerodactyl next. It hits a Rock Slide on Cloyster, really hurting us as we proceed to take out the prehistoric bird with one Ice Beam too. His first Dragonite dies to a 4 times effective Ice Beam and his second Dragonite suffers the exact same fate. His ace at level 50, who am I kidding, it falls to a single ice move too, and this just leaves Charizard left. Not risking losing Cloyster, I swap into Kabutops who eats at Air Slash nicely, and then we proceed to decimate Charizard with a Rock Slide, easily beating Lance. It's time for Hoen where 2 champions await us. In Pokemon Ruby, Steven is the champion. He has mainly Rock and Steel types and honestly we match up super well versus him, but his team can really hurt us if we're not careful, so let's give it a shot. Steven's lead is Skarmory and we lead off with Ninetales again. It's a super easy first matchup with a fiery flamethrower melting the Steel Bird in just one attack. Second, he sends out Metagross. This is a risky play, but I stay in and flamethrower again, and Ninetales takes him out too. So powerful. Third, Steven sends out Claydol, and I'm not risking any more moves our way, so I swap into Cloyster, who's been solid for us so far, as Claydol sets up a Light Screen, boosting his team's special defense. The next turn, we hit a Crashing Surf to deal just over half, even with Light Screen, as Claydol's Earthquake barely touches our high defense Cloyster. One more Surf, and another of Steven's Pokemon is down. Next up, Cradilly. I stay in an Ice Beam, and it does fantastic damage and freezes. Okay, I'm pretty lucky. Another Ice Beam and another knocked out Pokemon. Honestly, Cloyster is insane. He sends out the Ancient Bug, our Moldo, next, but it's no match for the might of our Cloyster and falls to a single Surf again. His final Pokemon, Aggron, is so weak specially defensively, he doesn't stand a chance either. And that's another easy champion win, but the difficulty will soon start to ramp up. We still have one more champion too left in Hoen to face. Our second champion for Generation 3 is Wallace. I think Shiftry is going to definitely have to put in some work here, but I do have a plan. Wallace's lead is a powerful Wailord, and we lead off with Ninetales. And I know this is a bad matchup, but hear me out. We lead Ninetales to set up a Sunny Day, reducing water type attack, so Water Spout does just over half to me. We then swap into Shiftry, who tanks a Water Spout and has the ability Chlorophyll, so now we outspeed everything. Then we fire off a Solar Beam to take out the whale in one swift strike. The bulky Milotic doesn't even take a Solar Beam well and survives it, but in the red as he misses a Toxic. Thanks to his berry, he heals himself out of full restore range, so Shiftry picks up the knockout the next turn and heals back to nearly full in the process. Tentacruel is a threat, so we've got to swap, and into our Moldo we go for the first time of the run. We tank a Sludge Bomb extremely well, and then we retaliate with an Earthquake the next turn to swallow him up and pick up our Moldo's first knockout. Then is Ludicolo, which is usually a threat, but we have Aerial Ace. One takes him down to below half as we take a Surf, but not well. That was lucky. A final Aerial Ace and down goes the Dancing Grass and Water type. This brings out a Gyarados. We swap to Kabutops on a Surf and it does a lot to us still, but the next turn we can call down a Landslide on Gyarados' head, and thanks to its part Flying type, which still doesn't make sense to me, he falls too. This just leaves a Whiscash left. We swap back to Shiftry as he's 4 times weak to grass and he sets up an Amnesia boosting his special defense. Even with his boost, the Giga Drain just does massive damage to him as he Amnesias again. This means Shiftry can knock out Whiscash, beating Wallace and conquering Hoen. It's time to take on Sinnoh next. If you like what you're watching and you still haven't, hit the subscribe button down below. Cynthia is a champion of the Sinnoh region, her team is a powerful one too, but we also have some major threats. This is the last battle we have with this team, so let's try to keep them all alive. Cynthia's lead is Spiritomb and we lead off with Kabutops. Straight away I set up a Swords Dance, raising our attack massively as a Dark Pulse does fantastic damage to us. The next turn a boosted Waterfall demolishes the Ghost and Dark type in just one attack. Second, Cynthia chooses Roserade. I play it super risky here and go for a Stone Edge, but thankfully we connect, meaning Kabutops picks up a second knockout. Third, Cynthia sends out Lucario, but even it can't stand to the might of a Waterfall and falls over easily too. This brings out our ace Garchomp though, and I'm not taking any risks, so I swap into Cloyster, who's bulky but still doesn't take an Earthquake that great either. I stay in, but Garchomp knows Brick Break and this puts Cloyster extremely low before a single Freezing Ice Beam demolishes a Dragon type. Next out, Cynthia chooses Togekiss. I swap to Omastar and the Aura Sphere hurts us big time. I then make a misplay of staying in an Ice Beam in as Togekiss sees the kill with a Water Pulse, but we survive it on just 2 HP. So the next turn, Omastar takes it out of an Ice Beam, and that was so insanely close. Her final Pokemon is Milotic, but we have an easy swap into Shiftry as the Surf does nothing to us. We then Giga Drain for nearly half as he sets up an Aqua Ring too. We Giga Drain again, this time we critical hit, and we put an end to Cynthia and Sinnoh. It's time to go to Univert where N's true power can shine. First up in Generation 5 is Alder, and like Cynthia, he's got a wide range of Pokemon with good type variety. We have a Zekrom voted for by you guys, and I'm finally using a Legendary. Our team is pretty strong, and I'm sure N can beat Alder a second time, so let's do it. I decide to lead Archeops into a Selgor, and straight away the reason why shows, as our Archeops destroys a bug with an Acrobatics boosted by no item. This brings out Vanillux. We swap to Klinklang as the resisted Blizzard still hurts us. The next turn we can use a unique move Gear Grind, and that takes out the Ice Cream Cone. Alder's answer to us now is Volcarona. I swap back into Archeops as it goes for an Overheat, and that takes us to below half, activating Defeatist. Not that great. I decide to stay in an Acrobatics, and luckily we still take it out. It's just the power ends team. Alder now sends out Bufalon in return, and I swap into Caracosta as he hits a head charge for a little bit of damage. I actually Shell Smash here, lowering our defenses and increasing our attack stats as a super effective Earthquake brings us low. I then Earthquake hoping to take it out, and we don't, but Bufalon misses a Stone Edge, saving our Caracosta from an inevitable death. With an Earthquake, Caracosta then finishes off Bufalon, and that was risky. On Drudigon, I take no more risks and swap into Vanillux as he hits a critical hit Night Slash. We outspeed, and a stab Freezing Ice Beam is enough to take down his dragon. This leaves one Pokemon left, and what better Pokemon to swap into than our Zekrom, as we tank an X-Scissor on the swap. We then hit our signature move Fusion Bolt for massive damage as the Scavalier's Giga Impact does a huge chunk to us too, but we survive it. This means with the final Fusion Bolt we defeat Alder once again, but there's still someone left in Univert for N to face. Iris is the other champion, and the majority of her Pokemon are dragons. We do have solid coverage, but apart from Zekrom, our Pokemon are pretty frail. Let's beat Iris. Iris's lead is Hydreigon, and we lead off with Caracosta. 2 words for that being Stealth and Rocks. Hydreigon's Dragon Pulse does a lot more than I'd hoped for as we set up Stealth Rocks, allowing us to break Haxorus's Focus Sash. Deciding to not risk Caracosta, we swap into Vanillux on the next Dragon Pulse, who tanks it to just above half. We then hit a Stab Ice Beam to take down the 3-headed dragon in just just one attack. Second is Druddigon, and after Stealth Rocks it falls to our mighty Ice Scream's power too. Third, Iris chooses Archeops, and it's the same story. Vanillish decimates it with an Ice Beam, taking out half of the team single-handedly. This brings out Aggron, and this is a bit more of an issue, so we swap into Zoroark disguised as Klinklang as we dodge a Rock Slide. We then hit a Flamethrower for fantastic damage as Aggron goes for an Automize to raise his speed, but Zoroark is still a super fast Pokemon and we just take him down with another Flamethrower. Now is the major threat Haxorus. I U-turn into our legendary Zekrom as he does in fact go for a Dragon Dance. Haxorus fires off a boosted Earthquake, but Zekrom tanks it like the legendary champion he is, and then he takes down Haxorus with a single Dragon Claw showing his power. Finally is Lapras. It takes 25% thanks to Stealth Rocks, and a Fusion Bolt from our legendary is enough to take it down, beating Iris and Generation 5. It's time to head to Kalos. Diantha is the champion of Kalos and who we take on next on the challenge. Our team is looking very good versus hers, and I'm pretty confident in our team that we can deal with her. Hawlucha is her lead and we lead off with our legendary Zekrom. Hawlucha is actually faster and hits a pathetic Flying Press as Zekrom's signature Fusion Bolt destroys the Luchador bird with one attack. Second, she sends out the Ice Dinosaur Aurorus. I Fusion Bolt again, doing massive damage but not enough for the knockout as he sets up a Reflect. Diantha now full restores her ancient Pokemon, and our Fusion Bolt is not even doing half. We then fire off a Dragon Claw, but we just put him in the red before taking a Blizzard for massive damage. I now swap into Caracosta, and we dodge a Blizzard on the swap too. Caracosta uses Shell Smash, raising our offenses but lowering our defenses, as thankfully yet again Caracosta is dancing with death and dodges a Thunder that would have been his demise again. We then take out Aurorus the next turn with an Aqua Jet. Diantha sends out Galgeist next, and Caracosta takes it out with a single Stone Edge, and as is tradition, no damage taken. This brings out Gudra. Another stab Stone Edge at a boosted attack takes out her bulky Dragon type with no issues. Now Diantha chooses her T-Rex Tyrantrum. I Aqua Jet for a little bit of damage as a Head Smash destroys Caracosta and puts her in the red from recoil. Diantha uses a full restore to fully heal her, and we Aqua Jet to get off a little bit more damage. There's zero chance I'm losing Caracosta, so I swap into Klinklang who takes a Head Smash much better. We then outspeed and hit a Gear Grind to take down the dinosaur. This leaves her last Pokemon and her ace Gardevoir. She Mega Evolves, but her stat boost don't kick in immediately, so we are faster and a Stab Gear Grind takes her ace down, giving us a victory over Kalos and Diantha. It's time to set sail to Alola. In Alola, Hau is a person we fight to become champion, and he's always one of the most trickiest too. We do have an answer to Incineroar this time, but we're going to have to switch smartly to not lose a Pokemon. Hau's lead is an Alolan Raichu, and we lead off with Caracosta. He only has one job, and that's take the Thunderbolt and survive it with Sturdy, then deliver a devastating Earthquake to take out Raichu, and that's his job well done. This now brings out Hau's Leafeon. We've got to switch, so into Archeops we go as he quick attacks us for nothing. We then outspeed and a stab boosted no items Acrobatic destroys Leafeon. Hau then sends out Crabominable, and I make a super risky play, staying in Acrobatics as it's fighting type, and we actually do enough damage to take it down too, so that's not a bad start for N at all. However, now is Tauros, and this is always a problem for me. It has Intimidate, so we're now at a -1 attack. We are faster, and an Acrobatics still does just about half to him, but an Iron Head really hurts our Archeops and activates Defeatist. We now switch into Klinklang and tank the Iron Head a lot better. Tauros then hits an Earthquake doing massive damage, but we do survive it, and I go for a Shift Gear, when in hindsight, it's just a waste of a turn. We're faster now the next turn, and we just take him out with a Gear Grind. This brings out his ace and starter Incineroar, and we've got to switch. So into our only answer for this thing we have, and that's Zekrom, as Hau decides to unleash Incineroar's power by going for a Z move, Inferno Overdrive. He drops a nuke on our head, but Zekrom tanks it decently well thanks to the Dragon typing. The next turn we hit a Fusion Bolt that looks fantastic in this generation by the way, and we do a great amount to him too before we take an Earthquake to put our Zekrom on a low amount of HP. However, we do know we are faster than him, so another Fusion Bolt and we can pick up the knockout, leaving only one Pokemon left, and that's Noivern. We swap to Vanillix, who's been great for us so far, and he tanks a Dragon Pulse decently too. The following turn we shoot a Freezing Ice Beam on the Dragon and Flying type for the knockout, and with that we beat Hau and the 3DS games. It's time to head on to the Switch games now and back to Kanto. The first of the Switch games is Trace from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and if you've watched any of the challenges before, then what I do is I show no mercy on him, I sweep him with just one Pokemon, and if that Pokemon falls, then it's gone from the run. This time we're just using Kabutops. The battle starts off by Trace Mega Evolving his Pidgeot into Mega Pidgeot, and we go for a Swords Dance to raise our attack by 2 stages as his Air Slash does literally nothing to us. We Swords Dance once more and our attack is through the roof as the second Air Slash does nothing to us again. We then drop rocks on Bird Jesus' head and that's an easy first knockout. Second, Trace sends out Vileplume, but an X-Scissor from our Kabutops makes short work of the Poison and Grass type. Third, Trace sends out his Ace and Starter Jolteon. Dropping rocks on him with our massive attack stat takes him swiftly down. Fourth is Marowak. We have Waterfall, and the animation in this game is so cool by the way, but a Waterfall just decimates Marowak too. Then is Slowbro. Usually Kabutops couldn't touch it, but with a super effective X-Scissor and our massive attack stat, he falls over too, leaving just one Pokemon left, and that's Rapidash. But being weak to us, a final charge up a Waterfall with our Scythes takes down Rapidash, and with that we easily beat Trace as always. Let's move on to Gala and Generation 8. The champion for Sword and Shield is Leon. His team is really strong, but to be honest, so is ours, and we have good counters to his Pokemon too. Leon's lead is his Aegislash, and we lead off with Caracosta. Why, you may ask? 2 words, Stealth and Rocks. His Aegislash King Shield, meaning we get up our hazard for free. Then Caracosta decides to take no mercy on Aegislash and takes him down with a single critical hit Earthquake. This means Leon brings out his Haxorus. He connects an Earthquake, doing huge damage to our Caracosta before we miss a Stone Edge, bringing RNG full circle. We now swap into Vanillix, who takes an Earthquake, but not very well either. The next turn we are faster than Haxorus, and with a freezing Ice Beam we take it down with no issues. This brings out his second Dragon, Dragon Pull. This thing is naturally fast, so I'm not risk losing our Pokemon here. So I go into Archeops on a Flamethrower, which we take nicely. The following turn we have our own Dragon move in Dragon Claw, and that's enough to send the Ghost type back to the Ghost Realm. This brings out Mr. Rime, the dancing Mr. Rime. It takes 25% to Stealth Rocks, then our Rock type hits a Rock Slide to end his dancing and take him out. With only 2 Pokemon left and one of them being an Inteleon, I swap into Zekrom, our legendary powerhouse, and we take a Snipe Shot very well. The next turn we go for a Fusion Bolt, and the animation again for this move just gets better and better as we destroy Inteleon with one attack. Finally, his Ace Charizard. It takes 50% immediately to Stealth Rocks. Then Leon Gigantamaxes his Charizard. He's actually faster than our Zekrom and hits a max Rocks Fall that Zekrom eats like the champ he is, and this activates Sandstorm. But Zekrom is far too powerful and a Fusion Bolt takes down Charizard. With that, we beat Leon and leaving only one champion left to face. The last champion is Geeta for Generation 9. She's got some really unique Pokemon and we've had to make some swaps to our team here. We've added in 4 Pokemon in Ninetales, Shiftry, Cloyster and Abomasnow. Geeta's lead is a Sparfer and we lead off with Abomasnow. It's actually Zoroark, but don't tell Geeta that. Turn 1 we set up a nasty plot, raising our special attack by 2 stages. This activates a Sparfer's ability Opportunist, raising her special attack too, but it won't matter as she attempts to hit Zoroark with a Psychic move which we're immune to. The next turn we can fire off a huge Dark Pulse to take down the Psychic Ostrich. Geeta now sends out Golgo. Zoroark knows Flamethrower and it's a one-hit knockout on the Gold too. Third, Geeta sends out Avalugg. As bulky as it is defensively, its special defense is poor and we burn the Ice Slab in just one attack. Geeta's 4th Pokemon is King Gambit, Bisharp's evolution. Even with Supreme Overlord, it can't stand to our Zoroark and falls to a single Flamethrower. Veluza is out 5th, but is part Psychic type and a Dark Pulse decimates the fish, leaving Geeta with just only one option left. And that's her Ace Glamora. She terastallizes into a pure rock type and we hit a Dark Pulse, but Glamora actually holds on with like 1 HP and then hits Zoroark with a Sludge Wave for massive damage and poisoning us. After poison damage we're at only 13 HP, but this means with a final Dark Pulse we can take down Glamora, beating Geeta and beating every single Pokemon champion as N. Or is it? Atop of the snowy Mount Silver is the legendary trainer Red and a champion trainer too. He leads off with a Pikachu and we lead off with our Moldo. It's a fantastic start as we dodge an Iron Tail and we retaliate with an Earthquake that destroys Red's ace. Second, Red sends out his powerful Blastoise. We're no match for him, so we swap into Shiftry as we take a Flash Cannon for about a quarter. Hail is chipping away, but the next turn we outspeed and a Giga Drain does huge damage to Blastoise as he retaliates with 100% accuracy Blizzard, putting Shiftry really low. After Hail, Blastoise is now in the red, so Redfall restores, meaning our next Giga Drain does massive damage and heals us to a healthy amount too. We can then finish off Blastoise with a final Giga Drain. Out next is Charizard. We swap to Omastar, who tanks a Flare Blitz fantastically. The next turn we can throw rocks at Charizard, his Kryptonite, and down he goes. This brings out Venusaur. We have a solid answer in Ninetales, so we swap into him and we get hit by a weak Giga Drain. We then fire off a fiery flamethrower doing devastating damage, but Venusaur survives and puts us to sleep with Sleep Powder. Red now full restores Venusaur and we stay asleep. Thankfully we wake up the next turn to bring Venusaur to a Sliver, and then we take a Sludge Bomb, hurting us too. This doesn't matter though, as a final flamethrower ends Venusaur. Red's next Pokemon is Lapras. It could be a problem by swapping to Kabutops, as a Brine hurts us on the switch. We then outspeed and Rock Slide, and it gives us a one-hit knockout on the Transport Pokemon. Red's final Pokemon and last hope is Snorlax. A Waterfall brings Snorlax to below half, and a Crunch does hurt Kabutops in return. We take hail damage, and with that chip damage, a last Waterfall seals his fate, and with that we defeat the legendary trainer Red and he vanishes. Team Plasma N and a champion himself, a past version of us. We have to take down ourselves to continue. N leads with Reshiram and we lead off with Zekrom. Reshiram's Fusion Flare does nothing to us as we bring him to a Sliver with a Dragon Claw. N full restores his legendary, but Zekrom gets a better damage roll and takes down Reshiram with a Dragon Claw. This brings out Vanillix next. I swap into Klinklang as we take a Blizzard decently. We then Gear Grind, critically hitting our first one for an easy knockout. N sends out his Klinklang now, and I swap back to Zekrom as he Focus Blast, meaning this is actually Zoroark. We take another Focus Blast, putting us low as we connect to Fusion Bolt for a one-hit knockout on Zoroark. N sends out Archeops, and I've got to switch. I go into Vanillix, and on the swap we get hit by a Dragon Claw that we take pretty reasonably. We then outspeed the prehistoric bird and take it out with a freezing Ice Beam. N chooses Caracosta next. Our best switching is our own Caracosta as we get hit by a Stone Edge on the switch. We then proceed to Earthquake for massive damage, and we take another Stone Edge, thankfully no crit. With a final Earthquake we can take him down, leaving only one Pokemon left, and that's Klinklang. I swap to Zoroark and we get hit by a Thunderbolt, breaking our illusion, but it's in vain as we outspeed the next turn, and with a burning flamethrower we take down N, defeating our past self, and this leaves only one champion left. Kieran, the most latest champion to be introduced and probably one of the hardest. This has a focus on double battles. Can N defeat every champion? Let's find out. Kieran leads off with Politoed and Dragonite with an emphasis on a rain setup here. We lead off with Abomasnow and Cloyster, and this is probably my best lead. The reason being, Cloyster is faster than everyone on the field, and thanks to Skill Link it can land a super effective Icicle Crash that always hits 5 times no matter what, and that's enough to just obliterate Dragonite. Abomasnow's Wood Hammer does massive damage but just misses out on the knockout as Politoed then hits a Psychic for close to half on Cloyster. Kieran now chooses Porygon Z, and this is bad as always. Politoed goes for a Helping Hand, boosting Porygon Z's Life Orb, Adaptability, Stab boosted Hyper Beam that also critical hits on Abomasnow and just destroys him from the face of the earth, putting us at our first death as we hit a Waterfall in the rain from Cloyster to put Porygon Z in the red 2. I now swap in Zekrom. Porygon Z has to recharge, so we only have a Politoed to deal with. I take it out quickly with a Waterfall from Cloyster in the rain as it does enough damage, and then with Zekrom I Dragon Dance, raising our attack and speed by 1 stage. Kieran sends out Grimmsnarl, and thanks to Dragon Dance, Zekrom is faster than Porygon Z. Grimmsnarl sets up a Reflect as Zekrom's Dragon Claw takes down the monster threat. Cloyster then hits a water boosted Waterfall, but it does nothing to Grimmsnarl. Kieran now swaps in Incineroar, and with Reflect and Intimidate, our team is pretty weak. Incineroar fake outs Cloyster as I Dragon Dance again with Zekrom to raise our attack more. Grimmsnarl hits a Spirit Break doing massive damage to our legendary, but we're holding on in there. I now Fusion Bolt Grimmsnarl, but he tanks it thanks to Reflect, and a 5-turn Rock Blast practically tickles Incineroar as he decides to take down Cloyster with a Flare Blitz, putting us at death number 2. Grimmsnarl Spirit Break Zekrom again, putting us on a sliver of HP. I now send out Shiftry. I opt to take down Grimmsnarl with a Fusion Bolt, putting an end to his Screen and Fairy Moves, and Shiftry's low kick does a little chunk to Incineroar, but this activates his Citrus Berry and he just obliterates Shiftry with a Flare Blitz, taking big recoil damage too in the process. We're now at 3 deaths and only 2 Pokemon left to beat. Kieran sends out his Ace Hydrapple now and terastallizes into a pure fighting type. Zekrom Fusion Bolt swiftly takes down Incineroar, and Ninetales Drought boosted Flamethrower does close to to half on Hydrapple. However, a super effective Fickle Beam finally kills our legendary, putting us on 4 deaths. But Zekron's put in some solid work, so now it's a 2-on-1. Zoroark's Sun Boosted Flamethrower does more damage to Hydrapple before Ninetales finishes the fight with a fiery flamethrower. With that, we take down Hydrapple, beating Kieran and beating every single Pokemon champion as N. So our total death count was 4 for this run, with all of the deaths coming at the hands of Kieran in a double battle. This was so much fun to do. I really enjoyed using a Zekrom as well, and the fact we made it to Kieran with 0 death shows N's power really. If you have any ideas on who you want to see next, leave them in the comments below. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to help the channel keep growing. As always, if you're still here watching, I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.